Good morning, and welcome to today's video from Yoker Evangelical Church. Today it's Tuesday the 14th of July, and this morning in our Bible reading we continued in Joshua as we read chapters 20 and 21, but we also started a new book as we read Acts chapter 1. And I'm really excited that in our Bible readings we're going to be going through Acts just now, because it allows us to take a look at the early church, to see how in its first years of existence the church faced trials, and yet Jesus was central. And in our chapter this morning, chapter 1, there were verses in this that hugely encouraged me as I was reading this morning, and that encouraged me to pray for our church. So we read in chapter 1 this morning about how Jesus ascended and sent his disciples out with a mission. And we read after Jesus had ascended, in verse 10, we read about the apostles. They were looking intently up into the sky as he was going, when suddenly two men dressed in white stood beside them. So just after Jesus has left them, angels appear with an important message for his followers. Listen closely to what they say. "Men of Galilee," they said, "why do you stand here looking into the sky? This same Jesus, who has been taken from you into heaven, will come back in the same way you have seen him go into heaven." This is one of the most momentous days in the disciples' lives. They have seen Jesus, their friend and the man who they have become convinced is the Messiah, ascend into heaven. And as they're seeing this, angels appear with a clear message for them. Jesus is coming back. As the apostles watch Jesus rise into the sky, they can't have helped but wonder, what do we do now? And so this truth that the angels hit them with, Jesus is coming back, gives them a sense of purpose. It tells them about the future. It tells them that Jesus, as he was then glorious, resurrected, the Jesus who has won the victory over sin and death, he is coming back. And this leaves them with a message. And it's a message for disciples then, in the first century, and it gives us a message today for disciples in the 21st century. First of all, I think it's a call to action. Look at how the angels talk to the disciples. They say, "Why do you stand here looking into the sky? Why are you gazing up into the sky? You've got work to be doing." This truth that Jesus is coming back gives us an urgency to what we need to do. We need to live for him, to share the gospel. Jesus is coming back. Get busy. And secondly, it is an enormous encouragement to us. I found this morning that I was fed by being reminded with certainty that Jesus is coming back. This is a truth for tough days. There will come times where we face trials and difficulties. And in those times, it's so important that we remember that Jesus is coming back, that victory is already won, that when we face difficult days, we can have certainty that he is coming back, and so our difficulties are not the end. That's why Christians throughout history have been able to face persecution, even death, with joy. Why? Because they know Jesus is coming back. And it helps us today, perhaps, when we are tempted to give up, when we think that living for Jesus is just too difficult. Actually, we remember he's coming back. That is our song for today, when we are tempted to put Jesus aside and think it would be easier to live without him. This truth that he is coming back pushes us back to him and says, no, he's coming back. He is where it is safest. These words of the angels would have given the disciples great comfort in the days and years ahead. But we can have this same hope today, that Jesus will return. That is a hope that we can cling to each and every day. I hope you have a good day today, and God bless.